Hey, it's Heather at Adventures in Gardening, and today we're going to be walking through the tomato gardens. We're going to be taking a tomato plant tour, looking at the health and the wellness of the tomato plants that are still here in the garden. We're going to be looking at some tomato fruits, do some harvesting. I'm going to show you how to save your own tomato seeds. Make some sauce really quick. I already actually did that, so I'm going to show you how I do that in a condensed version. And what do I do with all those cucumbers that are a little bit past their prime and you still want to use them and not chuck them out? Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again. The weather determines what kind of a tomato year that you're going to have. When I have a hot, dry summer and I'm able to control my own watering, I have a great tomato year with my plants looking great later into the season. And when we have a wet year like we've had right now, we have had here in Connecticut Zone 6, we've had a very wet, rainy season. 10, 12, 14 days of rain in a row, built an arc, days rain in a row, I don't even know. And so that does affect the foliage on your tomato plants. Now, what does that matter? I'm still getting a lot of tomatoes. I still have a lot of tomatoes, so I'm not really complaining. But as a tomato plant grower and somebody who sells tomato plants to the public, I like to be able to say, hey, these are a little more disease resistant, not to deter you from growing any of the other heirloom tomato plants, because there's so much flavor, there's so much diversity in the flavor of the heirloom tomatoes. So when we walk through the big tomato area, you're going to see some that look really great and some that don't really look great. But I have gotten a ton of tomatoes, even from the ones that don't look great right now. So it all works out in the end. So that's a lot to do, and stay tuned because the counters inside are full of tomatoes that I'm going to show you. I'm going to name them. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the ones that I have right now. So hopefully that'll help you in your decision-making process for planting tomatoes next year. So let's go take a look around. All right, so I didn't mention that, yes, we've had a very rainy season and a lot of rain, a lot of humidity. And now the nights are getting cooler, the days are shorter, and the plants are starting to realize that. They really are. So we are no longer in the building up phase of our plants, where you have that, radically fast growth, and now it's starting to slow down a little bit. When you have a wet, rainy season, you're going to have a lot of cucumbers. I have a lot of cucumbers and a lot of peppers that have a great pepper year, and so we all want what we want from the garden, but the garden is going to give you what it gives you. So I'm trying to find things to do with all these cucumbers. Now here is, I've got cherry tomatoes on the left, cucumbers and some beans, some self-sown beans on the right, and there is an abundance of cherry tomatoes right now. You can see that I have taken most of the low foliage off. I clean as I go. If there are crispy leaves, if there are yellow leaves, I am going to go ahead and take them off. I'm going to clean up this garden anyway, right? So why not do it little by little and not miss anything that's going to drop on the ground? It is very shady in my cattle tunnel right now, cattle panel tunnel, and my grass is starting to, not be so great, and that's okay. It'll come back next year. This cherry tomato right at the front is Rosella cherry. It is a sweet cherry, is our favorite. We have 4 growing on this cattle panel, and there are lots and lots of green ones still, and it still has really vigorous looking growing tips on it. And I do tie these to the cattle panel. So this is one. Yes, we've had spotty leaves. Yes, I've removed lots of foliage from it, but this is a great cherry tomato that is definitely worth a try if you can get the seeds. Now right next to it is blueberry cherry. Blueberry cherry is not my favorite fresh eating cherry tomato, but it roasts really well and it makes a great sauce. There's more Rosella. If you can see through the cattle panel, I harvested the cabbage last night and then I stripped everything right there, so I got to clean that up yet today. And this cherry tomato, this large cherry, is called Stupus, and it is a great producer, and there are still lots of young cherry tomatoes. It's still actively growing. It looks really good still. This one is Mrs. Barton, and this is a smaller cherry, lots of splits, so the chickens will get all of the splits as I pick them. This one is Blue Cream Berry, and I haven't gotten a lot of those this year. Berries Crazy Cherry right here. Foliage does not look great, but there's a lot of cherry tomatoes, and if you look on the outside here, you can see the plants look really great on the outside. So when I get to this point on the cattle panel, I am no longer weaving them back in through. Instead, I will pin them to the top because they need to compete with the cucumbers. Survival of the fittest here. So I will just be pinning them as I go. So that's a job for later today. Before we leave the cattle panel, you can see that there are a lot of cucumbers growing. We have, I have 2 crispers full of cucumbers. These are all Marketmore, and down here on this panel is Boston Pickler. And there's a lot of cucumbers still coming on. So I'm going to show you what to do with all those extra cucumbers that does not involve making pickles. All right, let me show you the Early Wonder. This is a great advertisement for Early Wonder. Here, I've shown this one a few times here. It is now probably about 6 feet tall, and I will compare these plants to the ones that are in the greenhouse, because yes, we have spotted leaves, but I've gotten so many tomatoes off of these plants. Don't let the name fool you and that you're only going to have tomatoes for a short period of time. This is a great tomato plant. It stays manageable in size, and the tomatoes are really big. So let's stop in the greenhouse and look at the Early Wonder that are still growing in here. So I don't have the problem with spotted leaves here in the greenhouse. I do get some yellow leaves. So I've got some that are ripe right now. Yeah, but these look really good. So this is where the bigger beefsteak and medium tomatoes grow. On the very end is the spoon tomato that is still looking great, doing great. And full disclosure, I have not picked any of these. I let the birds have them. There are a few spotted leaves in here, but for the most part, it's a monster. You got to give it plenty of space, and you got to really like to pick berries. It is a fun novelty plant for me here in the garden. So you can see there are some gaps. There are some plants that just all their tomatoes ripened that they had. There was no more growth and it was time to go. I do have those tomatoes in the house, so I will be able to show you those tomatoes. So who's still standing? This is Pantano Romanesco. Look at the health of the plant. The plant looks good. There are still tomatoes forming and growing on here. It is still blooming. This is one of the fruits. I think this is the last ripe one. And right next to it is Wood's Famous Brimmer. And again, it's still forming tomatoes. They are pretty consistent size tomatoes, good for sauce, good for fresh eating as well. You can see there's still more coming here. And then there's chocolate chestnut. Chocolate chestnut is more It's a little bit smaller. It's got good flavor. It has hit the top of my structure here and it's still growing. Again, I'm showing you the ones that have shown good, they have good staying power. Even though there's crispy leaves, let me tell you, we've had so much rain, it's crazy. Crazy. I'm like, oh great, more rain. I know, it could be the other way around. So if at all it sounds like I'm complaining about my tomato plants, I'm not. I like good looking plants in the garden. This one was German pink. I just picked the rest of them yesterday. No, did I? Yes, I did. But you can see, like, he's like, oh, well, wait, 1 minute. I might make more. I don't know. I threw in a bunch of emergency tomato plants, and for some of them it was a little bit too late. I think my emergency tomato plants weren't labeled. So this one is either Pantano Romanesco or it's Bonnie Best, but it's a nice looking tomato plant. We'll see how it does as our season closes. And I saved the best for last, Bonnie Best. I'm telling you, gotta plant this tomato. Early wonder in Bonnie Best, people. I lost a branch, an entire branch of big heavy green tomatoes. That was all my fault. But we have gotten a lot of these. This is a nice, healthy looking tomato plant with a lot of beautiful up and coming tomatoes yet to come. Plenty of season left for these to ripen for sure. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pick anything that has any color to it, and we're going to bring it inside, and I'm going to show you all the tomatoes that I have in the kitchen. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and sort today's harvest and put like with like, and then we're going to look at all the different types of tomatoes. But I want to tell you a little bit about my canning season kickoff, and it happened abruptly. I didn't know it was happening until it was happening. And there were tomatoes on every flat surface inside the house. They were everywhere. There were tomatoes. And I'm like, okay, it's time to do something. Now, when this happens, if this happens for you, don't hesitate to freeze them. You can freeze them to buy yourself some time. And I did freeze some of them, but a lot of them I just started coring. I core them, and I'll either quarter them, half them, or put them in a big stock pot hole, and to buy myself a little bit of time, start stewing them down. Okay, I'll stew them down. It's a 2 to 3 day process for me, mashing them using an immersion blender, and my immersion blender actually died this time. But I used my Vitamix instead. I poured everything into the Vitamix. And when I do my tomato canning, it is seeds and peels and all, okay? I think the peels thicken the sauce a little bit. Now, if you use a Vitamix, you're adding a lot of air into your sauce, so you want to give it time. Put it back in the stock pot and simmer it down for a little bit before you do any processing. So on day 3, it was time to start filling my sterilized jars with my sauce. And I add salt and I add vinegar, and I process them in my water bath canner. And gotta love to hear that ping when all of your seals are successful. So we've got a lot of cherry tomatoes here, but let's start in the back. So this is Black Beauty, and this was new to me this year. And it has fairly good flavor. It's a little, I think, more tart than, like, say, Cherokee Purple. I think Cherokee Purple is a very smooth tomato. So those are all of what's left of Black Beauty, and there have been a ton of those. There were so many of those. So they keep good color on the top, and they turn reddish, pinkish red on the bottom. So this is actually a ripe one right here. These are chocolate chestnut. I got a lot of cracking this year in all of my tomatoes, but not to worry, we will just be cutting that part out when we do the canning. All of these tomatoes that I'm showing you, all these big tomatoes, are going in the stock pot today. Chocolate chestnut is the one that I showed you outside that had good disease resistance and was still actively growing, and it is just a delicious, fruity, smooth tasting tomato. All of these are Pantano Romanesco. They have that little flute, pleat, whatever you want to say here. They are a delicious, rich flavor of a tomato, and again, this was one that showed good disease resistance outside. Pretty uniform in their size and their shape. It's a favorite of mine for sure. These are the Woods Famous Brimmer, and we've had plenty of those, and we'll have a few more of those. These are Purple Rain, and we've had quite a few Purple Rain. And these are them ripe. They keep kind of the, they keep the green shoulders to them. There are a few Black Icicle in here. Those are actually small for Black Icicle, but those are the last of them. These are Orange Icicle. They're a little fruitier, a little drier than Black Icicle are. It's a plum tomato. These are Granny Cantrell, and I think that mine are a little on the small side, but they're a pretty tomato, great flavor. I would definitely put them at the top of the list for great tomato flavor. And these are the Pink Brandywine, and I had plenty of these tomatoes. Excellent flavor, but the plants were just done. So those are the last two Pink Brandywine, and I know this is not beautiful, but these are German Pink. I think these are probably the last of the German Pink as well. This is over 1 pound. I weighed this one. It was 1.3, I think. Not beautiful, but super tasty. So worth growing. Just even if you get, 8 or 10 of them. This is Cherokee Purple. Got the green shoulders, but they do fully ripen. This is a beauty. These are San Marzano. Everyone knows San Marzano. My one little prairie fire I got today, and these are the Early Wonder that we picked. So let's take this biggest Early Wonder and compare it to the German Pink. It's a little bit smaller, but this is a good sized tomato. I know, I'm singing the praises of Early Wonder today. This is Barry's Crazy Cherry, fruity, on the sweeter side. Stupus, I showed you the large cherry that's outside. I love this. It tastes just like a regular big tomato. These are the Blueberry Cherry. Look at how many of those that I have. Great tomato for cooking. You can use it in salads as well. I failed to mention, this one doesn't crack for me. A lot of the cherries, they will split when there's a lot of rain or if they get too overly ripe, but these do not split. This is all Rosella. Right here, Rosella is sweet and smooth and just our favorite cherry. This is Mrs. Barton, and this is Isis Candy. That is sweet, but a different kind of sweet than Rosella. So it's good to have quite a few different cherries, especially if you like to make tomato salads like we do. This is the blue cream berry, blue cream cherry back there. A little on the watery side, but it's a good tasting tomato. Very low acid. I forgot the Coeur de Boue. Look at the different sizes there. Love that one for cooking, for pizza, and it's also good for a nice tomato sandwich. I think they're all good for tomato sandwiches though. So one of my favorite parts about growing heirloom and open pollinated tomato plants is being able to save my own seeds and get the same plant next year. But there's a catch. So I'm going to show you what I did yesterday to prepare my tomato seeds so that I would have great germination for next year. Okay, so if you are going to save your own tomato seeds, or if you have tomatoes or other produce in the house right now, you need to make one of these because you will have fruit flies And this is just a jar with a piece of paper and a funnel. Can you see all the critters, all the fruit flies? They go in the funnel and they cannot get out. So that is just my PSA because fruit flies are part of this time of year. So these are my saved seeds. I put them, a very, very ripe tomato, in a jar with some water, and I let them stay for at least 1 week, and it has been over a week, and these lids are not on there tight. Okay, there's a little sac around the tomato seed that needs to be fermented off so that your seeds will germinate properly next year. So this is all part of seed preparation when you're saving your own tomato seeds. Now, is this stinky? Oh yeah, this is stinky. All right, so here's the first thing you do. You need a fork and you need a dump bowl. So I'm gonna stick my dump bowl in the sink. And so I'm going to give this a stir, make a little whirlpool, give it a second. Because what will happen is all of the seeds will start to go to the bottom. Now this happens a lot easier on the second time around because we're going to add water, because right now this is pretty thick. But I just want to take all of the pulpy bits, the skins. Oh, by the way, I did mush these up in here when I put the tomato in. So I mushed them. You can't just put the tomato in the jar and let it go. So I'm going to add a little bit of water. Pulpy bits out. This is just the process. And now I will start pouring some of it off. Not too much, because the seeds are there's still some thick pulp in here. You can see the seeds all going to the bottom. So now I'm going to pour some more off. Add some more water. Pour off. Can you see the seed layer? I think when I tilt the jar, you probably can't. And each time the water gets a little bit clearer, there's a little bit less pulp. And so the seeds are able to sink to the bottom faster. Never put your drying tomato seeds near an open window. How do I know? Oh, I know. Oh, I know. Now I'm going to get a spoon. All right, so there's a little bit of water still, actually a whole lot of water is still in there. So I can't dump the whole thing out, but I can take my seeds and plop. All right, so you can see there's a little puddle here. That's okay. Just take and spread your seeds out, all right? Because you don't want, they are going to clump together. This is not going to be like when you take your tomato seeds out of a packet. But it sort of can be, because you can break them up with your fingers, and I will do that. But the water actually allows them to be spread out a little bit, and it'll evaporate and dry up quickly. When these are dry, I mean a week dry, let them sit until they're dry. I put them in a paper coin envelope, and then I put them in a special little refrigerator where I keep all my seeds. So this was our cucumber harvest for today, and I have harvested so many cucumbers, and I have so many in the refrigerator right now, and some of them have gone past their prime. They get yellow on the end like that. So what do you do when you have too many cucumbers? Well, if you want to feel like $1,000,000, make cucumber juice. Cucumber juice is delicious and refreshing, and it just, I don't know what it is about it, makes you feel really good. And if you have an abundance of cucumbers like I do, you can make cucumber ice cubes and save them till the end of the season when there are no more cucumbers, and then pop them in your water and have that delicious taste of summer cucumbers in your water. Okay, so that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed spending time with me. Give me a thumbs up if you did. I have got to get busy and start processing these tomatoes and get them going, and I think I'm going to make pickles tomorrow as well. So subscribe if you haven't already so you don't miss out on the next adventure in gardening. See you soon.